Wow, thank you everybody for coming this morning. Who here is thinking about their 401k or their health care plan and the co-pays? Did you get your kid to daycare this morning? Baseball practice, ballet practice? That next meeting you have to go to after you're here? Or what I like to call the American dream, the price you pay to be in the 1%? Maybe you're enlightened about it. You eat organic. You go to CrossFit. You're in that cult. Do Pilates. I know that life. I live in one of the richest neighborhoods in the richest counties in the world. I look left, I look right, I see BMWs, I see million-dollar houses. I grew up in the high-tech industry, where the currency there was being the first person to get back in email, the first person to get back in a message. Your phone was on 24/7. If you went on vacation, don't you take your laptop with you? You need to be available at all times. I've done proposals for clients on the side of the road, on the way to the beach with my family. And actually, I loved it. I felt like a rock star. The pressure was hard, and getting up in the morning was hard sometimes, but it was totally worth it. I kind of felt like Michael Jordan. Yes, this was my segue, so I can compare myself and you guys to Michael Jordan. He's one of my heroes. Michael, when he came out of college, was the scoring leader in the NBA for the first 8 seasons. Nobody had his talent. Nobody had his work ethic. Just like us, we have talent, but we work really hard. Then as time goes on, when I first started in the tech industry, it was really easy to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, go to the gym, get to my desk by 7 o'clock, work all day, go to a customer dinner, go to a happy hour, and then end up at the bar at night, and then start all over again. Go to Las Vegas to a kickoff, and go to all the presentations, and then party all night. Actually, my way of doing it, I didn't drink, so I would go out all night, and then I would go get a pint of Ben & Jerry's, and go to my room and watch a movie. That was my way of partying in Las Vegas. What I'm talking about is just the pace of play. But as time went on, as we got more successful, we got promotions. We got money in the bank. We started buying nicer cars, which came with nicer payments, which came with nicer tax bills. We had kids. I remember when I had my first son, my ex-wife made more money than me when we were married. And she said, "I'm done. I want to stay home." That meant I had to figure out how to double my income so that we could stay in the house that we were in. The pressures of this wonderful life that we were building starts to get to us. But we're creative. We learn how to burn the candle at both ends. We do a little more CrossFit. We do a little more Pilates. We eat a little bit better. And we just burn the candle at both ends. And then we start to hit market forces. Tough bosses, illnesses. Maybe that sale didn't come through. Let's go back to Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan hit some market forces of his own. Do you know in those first 8 seasons, he never won a championship? I know when I was reading that, I forgot all about that. He never won a championship, and he was the top scorer in the NBA. See, his market forces were known as the bad boys of the NBA, the Detroit Pistons. See, back then, it wasn't today's NBA. Back then, it was no blood, no foul. So no matter how hard Michael flew through the air, he was knocked to the ground. He could not get a championship because those guys had his number. Then, if you remember, in the 90s, we had the Dream Team. We were taking our best basketball stars. Larry Bird and Magic Johnson and the whole group of them went over to show the world that we knew basketball, and Michael went with them. First time in Michael's life that he was surrounded by people of his caliber. Even there, he was a star, and everybody knew it. But now, Michael saw that there were other people who could do almost what he could do. He also saw that these guys had rings that he didn't have. So he got hungry, and his work ethic got even stronger. So when he came back for the next season, he knew he needed an ally. He needed someone to help him get through the Detroit Pistons. Scottie Pippen by his side. He also knew that he had to bulk up. He had to get stronger. If this was going to be a rough game, he was going to have to play rougher. And you remember when Michael got bigger, some of you, anybody who's watched those games, and Michael started powering through. He started getting to the basket. He had help. The result? 3 championships. I'm going to stay with Michael for a little bit because I just love this subject. Michael leaves the NBA, leaves on top. His legacy is solid. Goes and plays baseball for a little while. People made fun of him for hitting 200 when he went to Major League Baseball. But if you ever try to hit a baseball, you got to know that's otherworldly hand-eye coordination. But Michael wasn't so thrilled with being just merely human, so he decides to go back to the NBA. Now here's the interesting piece. He goes back to the NBA. He's not the same player. He's older, just like us. We're still playing the same game. We have more responsibility. We have more things to take along. Our bodies don't do what we want, what they used to do. Our mind isn't as sharp as they used to be. We still play the same game. Michael goes back and he realizes what did he go through when he first went back to figure out that he had to change, he had to evolve if he was going to go back and have the same success. After all, he was a legend. So things that he learned in the Olympics and with baseball is that he was the star. Those championships were his. What he learned was he needed to share the kingdom. That if they won a championship, it wasn't going to be his kingdom, it was going to be their kingdom. He also had to learn how to be a leader. He couldn't do it all himself. He had to take his team and bring them up to the level that he knew how to play. So he had to teach them, he had to inspire them to go with him to those championships. He also knew he had some weaknesses. He knew that he couldn't get to the basket the way he used to. So he worked on that fade shot. His three-pointer, which he was never known for, he worked on it tirelessly over and over and over. We don't see what he did to be able to hit those three-point shots. My son reminded me that when he had the flu, one of his last championships was when he had the flu. I'm not feeling great today. I have a cold. And he called me this morning and says, "Hey, Dad, how you doing for your talk?" I said, "I don't feel that great." He goes, "You're Michael Jordan. He had the flu. He won a championship. You can do this talk." We have resources as we get older that we didn't even know. We have access to wisdom, and we have access to experiences to do things differently. So what happened when Michael went back to the NBA? 3 more championships. Not only was he sustainable over the long haul, he evolved and changed and brought new skills into his world and elevated. So now, LeBron James, Michael Jordan, what team you on? That's still being written by LeBron James. Michael's is solid. Just controversy for the audience. How about us? Now, how are we going to make it sustainable? You know, if you think about it, getting up in the morning, at some point, starts to get a little harder. I know it did for me. That little voice was starting to say, you know, you can't really keep this up. You know, do you go get yourself promoted and still keep climbing the ladder? Do you change careers? And then you quickly shut that down because it's too threatening. You have mortgages. Your kids are going to go to the best colleges. You can't think about those things. You can't be selfish and think about those things while you're in the grind, while you're in the hustle. But I was listening to the Eagles the other day, and I heard the song, After the Thrill Is Gone. And for the first time, I realized it wasn't a silly little love song. You know, what do you do when your dreams come true and they don't look like you planned? I was in my kitchen. I was like, oh my God, I'm on top. I drive a Lexus convertible. I live in $1 million house. The thrill was gone. I didn't want to get up in the morning. I had a little voice that was telling me. My gut was saying, you know, you need to evolve. You need to change. The game was fun. I love the game. I love being, you know, in the fight. But I wanted to do it differently. One of the things I noticed when I was in the corporate world is that there was always a line at my cubicle. My bosses would ask my guidance and my advice. My contemporaries, I love nothing more than helping other sales guys become successful. In fact, my clients, a lot of my sales success came from the fact that a lot of my customers were my friends. I cared about them, not just the sale. I was always able to get a first meeting. I was a startup guy, so I was always selling new technologies. I was always able to get a meeting because my customers trusted me, that I cared about them. So I was evolving my sales to a much more executive level. They'll call it executive, but I called it relationships. Harvard did one of the longest studies ever on the face of the planet. Started in the 30s or 40s. And they followed people through their 20s, 30s, 40s, all the way up, and now they're the same people in their 90s, all walks of life, all colors, all creeds, male, female, rich, poor, and they follow them through their lives. And you think now we're obsessed with the Kardashians and the Instagram culture? Even back in the 40s, if you asked someone who was in their 20s, what did they want? It was money, success, fame, power. That's what they thought would make them successful. Then you fast forward and you ask those same people. Now, some of them were rich, some of them weren't. Some of them came from money, some of them went down, some of them went up. And to the person, when they're in their 40s and their 50s, it was relationship. It was connection. It was what difference did they make in the world. That was what was important to them. And it stayed all the way through their 90s to when on their, you always heard on your deathbed, you don't remember the toys you bought, you remember your relationships. This study shows it. What's really interesting is you're never too young to figure this out. My belief is that the drives and the motivations that get us through our 20s and 30s start to turn on us in our 40s and 50s. They just are not sustainable. The business study proves that. I was just working with a young man who was 28 years old. And I asked him what made him happy. And he said, as long as I'm making a difference for another person, I'm a happy man. As long as I'm taking care of my family, I'm a happy man. And I was dumbfounded at 28 years old. Usually these guys, and he had 3 businesses that he was building. And I don't usually hear that. I said, that's unusual. How did you come to that making a difference in other people's lives is what's going to make you happy? He says, well, you see, I was a high school and college athlete. Everything came easy to me. People laid stuff down at my feet. I had any girlfriend that I wanted. And by the time I was in my mid-20s, I was depressed. I had anxiety. And I have to admit to you, I was suicidal. And then I read an article about doing something for somebody else, make you feel better. So I tried it. 24 years old. And he goes and does something for somebody else, and he feels better. So he tried it some more, and he felt better. Next thing you know, he's not taking his medications anymore. And he's happy, and he's married with kids and building businesses. And his businesses are all about what can he do for his family and what can he do for the world. You're never too young to figure this out. For me, my gut, my little voice was telling me that I wanted to connect more with people. That the part of the game that I loved, that I needed to evolve in, was helping others to rise up. See, your soul is looking for adventure. Your soul loves adventure. But what you don't know is your soul doesn't care if you drive a sports car. Your soul doesn't care how much money you have in the bank. The fulfillment that you are looking for is not over there. It's in your relationships. It's in your art. And when I say art, I don't mean you have to go finger paint. I mean, what business do you want to start? Or if you're in the corporate world, do you want to start mentoring and helping other people? Do you want to start a new division? Your art can be anything. That creativity is longing to get out. Where can you channel it? Relationships. Where are your relationships? Where did you sacrifice along the way to get where you are? How many people who are rich and famous have you heard do an interview and say, yes, I got where I got, but I miss my first wife? I believe that midlife crisis is not inevitable. We all laugh it off. Someone buys a sports car, they leave their wife, they get a younger woman, and he's in a midlife crisis. Crisis is a small, contained event. What I believe is midlife is a place where you start to take stock. It's where you start to listen to who you really are. It doesn't mean you have to quit your job and go bartend in the Bahamas. But you have to start to listen. And if you don't listen, life will find a way to make sure that you listen. I didn't listen, and I wound up getting sick, getting divorced. I was a sales guy doing the same things I was doing before, and I couldn't sell anything. Life was trying to get my attention that you need to do something different. How is life trying to get your attention, and you're not paying attention right now? It's a scary thought. I feel everybody just kind of, not so sure. It's very threatening. Otherwise, everybody would do it. But life has a way, and that's where the midlife crisis is. But I believe that a midlife crisis is the consequence of not evolving, of not growing. Midlife isn't an event. It's a changing time. It's a time to start looking at how you're going to live the rest of your life. Odds are, if you made it to 40 or 50 years old, you're going to live to 70, 80, or 90. How do you want to live? Who do you want around you when you're old? I have a friend who's 95 years old, surrounded by young men because he mentors constantly. He has 20-some-odd mentees. He does Tai Chi and yoga. He's amazing. He's actually a Holocaust survivor. He could have worn that brand for a long time. But what he does is he goes out and he goes and tries to heal the world. He has the key to the city of where he was in Germany, where he was a victim of the Holocaust. And he goes back and he heals there. That's his legacy. And you're never too old to figure that out. Barbra Streisand, the most successful female singer that ever lived, never took a singing lesson. She didn't like them. Tony Bennett tried to teach her some exercises, and she just told him no. And for years, for decades, the woman can sing a song like nobody else. And then in her 60s, her voice started to go, and she was pretty sure she was at the end of her singing career. 66 years old, she met Diana Krall, a jazz singer from Canada. Diana said, you don't have to change. You don't have to leave your career. You want to stay in the game? You just need to evolve. And Barbara, the perfectionist, heard the little voice, and she decided, I still want to sing. And Diana taught her how to reach notes that she couldn't reach anymore, the way she used to do them. She taught him how to bend a lyric for her voice now. And the result of that collaboration, another #1 album for Barbra Streisand at 66 years old. She's the only person to have a only female to have a #1 album for each of the last 6 decades. Her legacy was solid. And still, not only was she sustainable, she evolved and she reached new heights. Where can you do that in your career, in your life? What is your gut, your wisdom telling you that you already know if you quieted it down, took a walk on a beach, took out a journal, had a conversation with a friend, and let that voice talk to you? What could you accomplish in the world? Rather than being sustainable, how could you thrive when the world is asking the most of you? I believe midlife is the time to start to step in to your deep connections, to your art, to the impact that you're going to make in your life, and to your legacy. Here's to your legacy. Thank you.